thing entirely. For the first 4, I don't know what Mel and Pam did. I actually would be very interested in hearing it, I suppose, because I'm just curious, because I've made it all up as I go. I mean, I just make it up as I go. By the way, you're going to make it up as you go. Forensics, the first 3 or 4 weeks where they're learning material, I don't let anybody come in for practice until it's memorized. We won't watch them if it's not memorized. I watch read-throughs in class. I don't watch read-throughs after school. The first 3-4 weeks of class, we do what I refer to as triage. They come in, I watch them for 10 minutes, we hand them notes, bring the next one in for 10 minutes, hand them notes. Their job is to go away and make the notes happen. As kids begin to qualify for state, as it becomes clear what things are going to be pretty good and need real intensive work, then I start taking 30-minute, 45-minute slots, and I work intensively with them. And they sign up for slots. And then we go back into another phase of 10-minute run-throughs after we've done intensives. I mean, that's the way I do forensics.
I do deconstruction, reconstruction.
Well, that's what I think we're talking about.
We are talking
Intensive
about,
means the same thing, yeah.
But
Start,
I
stop,
will
fix.
do segments.
Yeah.
I won't necessarily, and this is later on in the season, not at the front end. This is at the middle. After the first couple of tournaments is where I'm going to start this deconstruction, reconstruction. I may want to see your teaser, intro, segue to the first part of the piece, stop.
I'll do that with the build-up to the climax in the fall.
And we will film it.
Yep. And watch it.
And kids have to save it on a dipstick. I mean, I
She
don't
means
do,
flash drive. She means flash drive.
yeah, dipstick, you know.
I speak Pam, so.
USB in your world, dipstick in my world. I don't post on YouTube because I don't know how to do that.
I have a private YouTube channel and we do it that way.
But I think that's another vehicle that you can clearly use. And why I make them save it on a USB is that every performance or every coaching segment is saved on there so that a kid can see what things have been done. Same thing with my public speakers.
I have also, as partially an attempt to answer your question, I've also played around over the years with different ways to make the kids self-evaluate the rounds. And I think that's an important part of the process.
Okay.
So,
I was curious about, okay, you said, so you make them attend after-school practices.
Here's the deal, and this can't be your life. This
Right.
is your job, this is not your life. And part of my comment is that when I had to make that, you start making that understanding, I'm not gonna live at school.
right.
There's other things I do at school too, I'm involved in some of the other activities that we have. And you cannot let the kids control your time.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Our practices are 2 hours, 3 days a week.
Well, you set that schedule,
That's
but
it.
see, like at my high school, we have a small number of kids who do absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And so I've
What
got
are
to
you
be
doing?
aware of when band
I was
is,
talking
when
about you.
theater rehearsals start, and all that
Change
other
the
kind of
for
big business. And then I say,
Yeah.
these are my
Change the
nights that I will be
right there.
here until this time,
Have a
and
good
then
day.
you go home. I don't want them just hanging out and like, oh, are you gonna go home? Yeah, I live outside this. I'm not going to let it be my life, because it's been my life my whole life. I mean, I don't know any different. My parents were both involved in this activity, and so I got to see them because that was the one thing they told me was, do not make this your life.
Okay. I was curious, however, if you're doing the after-school practices, and you say you won't let them come to the after-school practices until they're memorized. I mean, is it a grade penalty if they don't come to practice? So basically, okay, so that's
My
what
grading system for tournaments, and I've talked to other people, I'm the only one who does this the way I do it, I think. Josh Anderson has categories, and when they fill up the categories of points, they're done. I run total points. Every tournament in my world is worth 300 points. If you do all the practices you're supposed to do and you turn in a tournament report and you compete in your rounds, you get all the points. Every practice is worth 15% of the grade. You can't get better than a C- or a D for a tournament if you refuse to practice.
Okay.
The
That's the way I
other,
handle it.
On the forensic squad, I have made captains of events, and an experienced captain can also watch novices. Again, it's a sign up of a 30-minute slot time. And that captain makes a copy of their written comments so that I have them, which then translates, okay, you came in, you got 10 points for your 30 minutes of time. And you can put whatever point value you want on anything.
Whatever
That's
fits
your
your system.
call.
I will tell you too, that one of the things that in the last 4 or 5 years has really helped my practice situation is that I started tracking practices. Now, here's what I mean by that. I have 2 assistants for debate, I have 3 assistants for forensics. If I watch a kid and I give them notes today, and then Mel watches a kid and gives them notes tomorrow, and I never see Mel's notes, I would get, well, Mr. Brown told me the opposite of what you told me. And then I'd go talk to Zach, my assistant, and he'd say, oh, that's not what you told me. You know, or yeah, I did, but here's what I really meant. I use OneNote because we got it and it's easy. And I just have a page for every kid for every event. And I type the notes and I put them in there. And when Zach types the notes, he gives them to me and I put them in there. If our theater director, who's one of my assistant coaches who just hates to use electronic stuff, writes them out, I'll take a picture of it with my phone and I can still stick it in OneNote. And it's solved a lot of, okay, well, you know what? This is the 4th time we've worked with you. And we've told you to make sure that you don't drop the turns every single round. You're still dropping turns, right? I think it makes for more effective education and practice.
And particularly if you have Rule 10, who are either college kids or not certified teachers, because they're still college kids, and you want to know what they're telling your kids,
Right.
because
That's right.
it's not their job, it's your job. And if a kid gets told something that they do, and, I mean, you're the one that's still liable because of something weird that a Rule 10 kid did.
We're not going to spend a lot of time on this next one. I just want you to be aware that, and I think in your first year, it's hard to even know what this means. But over time, it's become important for me. I wish somebody had told me, these events changed, they evolved. Duo looks very different in 2014 than it did 10 years ago. Policy debate looks incredibly different in 2014 than it did in 1994. These activities change, and for all the in-service and continuing education stuff that they make us do, those of us in this room who do these activities, our best in-service is watching things, is knowing what's going on out there. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to go to a tournament and watch another round or watch. I've learned over the years that if we're really struggling in poetry this year, the smartest thing I can do at the next big tournament I'm at is go watch poetry finals. I'll even walk in, and McComas knew I was doing it. She was smart enough to know I was doing it. I'd walk in and say, you need to put me in a quarterfinal champion. And she'd smile and say, okay. And put me in like the 1-8-2-7. Because she knew exactly what I was doing, right? The aha moment for me for that was in Dallas at Nationals. The first time we were in Dallas, my assistant coach and I went and watched semifinals of duo. And it was like watching a duo inter textbook. I learned so much watching that ring. And so, get out and watch stuff, because the things change.
And I would just say one last thing. Get in and judge.
Get in.
We talk about,
You don't want to, you've watched 1,000 things this week.
but I'm going to tell you that part of the trend changes are happening, and this is hopefully not stepping on anyone's feet, is because of what happens in college trickles down to high school, and a lot of these new trends, new mindsets are trickling into this activity. And the only way to have control of the activity is if you, as the coach, are in judging and making those comments on a ballot. And I use a ballot as a teaching tool. And Monday after a tournament, when kids have their ballots, whether it be debate ballots or their forensic ballots, over the weekend, I've gone in with a red pen to every ballot, and I have underlined or I have circled things, both good, but especially the constructive comments of things you need to do to make a change. If you don't do that, and then I make the kids on the tournament result sheet that they have to do individually every Monday, they have to list the constructive things that they need to do to get better. And then we use what we call a T-chart. Here's what we need to improve on, here's how I've improved, that kind of thing.
I do kind of a three-step. What do the judges say I need to improve? What do I think I need to improve? What's my plan to fix those things? And I will occasionally, the one version of that was, what can I do? What do I need from my coach? You know. I mentioned this earlier, and I think I want to say one more thing about this. I wish somebody had told me the level at which you're going to be involved with and know things about these kids. And how important it is to be able to go home at the end of the day and leave that somewhere else. Melanie said it. This is your job, it's not your life. And we all, because we're competitive, or we wouldn't be doing this, it's going to become our life at points during the year. Debbie knows, my wife knows, that the first 2 weeks in December, every year, I'm not going to be of very much use at home because it's NFL prep. She knows that the end of March, most of April, up to the first week of May, I'm going to be gone a lot. And I'm going to put in more hours at school than I normally put in. You know? The other side of that is that she's an elementary music teacher who teaches some beginning band now, and I know that she's going to have 2 or 3 times a year that she's got to go do instrument demonstrations and programs. And so we just live in the world we live in, but you got to remember that you're not the kid's therapist. And they will want you to be their therapist sometimes. And sometimes you might be a more effective therapist sometimes than somebody else, because you know more than they're telling somebody. But just remember, you're not, the liability you carry there is important. But learning to know when, I just keep picking on Zach because he's sitting here. Knowing when Zach's having a bad day and needs a kick in the butt or needs to be kicked back into play versus when something is really, when he's really down and he needs a cheerleader, versus when I need to teach him how to do something better. Knowing that is an important part of this coaching process. And it's hard and it takes experience.
I think another piece is we often are the mom or dad
For some kids.
of some kids. And the other piece is that we are given oftentimes information that you have to take to another level. You personally
Right.
have to.
You are a mandated reporter.
And if you don't do that,
Everybody in the room understand what that means, mandated reporter?
we've all been in some of us who've been in the trenches for a while, have been in some pretty
Pretty
tricky
ugly stuff.
situations. And when you're given information, you also have to let your administrator know.
You give me
Especially when it becomes a liability
I'm
issue.
gonna move faster.
Fine, move. I'm just saying.
She's right. She's absolutely. It's a big deal, and it's all part of this thing I'm talking about. I wish somebody had told me how much I was going to have to read, because I might have done something else. I don't think that for the rest of my life I will ever be able to read anything without a pen in my hand. And increasingly, really, that means looking at it on a computer ready to highlight, or on my iPad, or Kindle or whatever. But and I don't read for I don't know how to read for pleasure, I think, anymore.
Not till summer.
I don't even.
Not till summer.
It's not reading now, it's watching a movie or going to a play or anything. It's like, man, it sounds great, cut out a play last night.
And part of the reason you're going to have to read a lot is because a lot of what you're going to read is going to be pretty awful. I mean, let's just be real. Max was very generous this morning. He said that he throws away about 30% of what he buys for forensics. I think I throw away about 70% and use about 30%. I think my number is inverted from that. He's better at weeding stuff out before he buys it than I am.
I could have opened a used bookstore. You had a question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was kind of wondering about that. So you're basically saying that there is no way to effectively weed out, there's no way to buy the really important stuff. You just have to buy a whole lot and weed.
I buy a lot of weed.
Okay.
I will not
Especially-
lie. He also told everybody in the room this morning that everything that was in his classroom he had read. Whew. I can't say that. Kids read a lot. I read a lot, but I don't read. I mean, if I buy, very often forensic season, twice a forensic season, I'll buy a couple $100 worth of stuff.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm saying I do that 2 or 3 times and that's, I can't process all that.
Has anybody ever been to Drama Bookshop in New York City? Okay, first of all, it is absolutely my candy store. If you don't put it on your radar and you don't put it as a resource, you are silly and crazy. Drama Bookstore and I will tell you, these people are great when you call them up and you talk to them. A lot of the people who work there are actors. They are going to give you, because they're reading the material, and they're going to give you a pretty objective point of view of what it is that they're reading. I buy all of my Humana Play festivals, all of my best short plays from Drama Bookshop.
And I'm gonna get to resources.
And, okay, I know, but this ties
Well,
into
maybe.
this reading a lot.
Yeah,
You said in New York, Pam?
It's New York City, Drama Bookshop. It is the candy store of all candy
Well,
stores.
and it is, I'll tell you this too, it is increasingly cheaper. And this is hard for me because I'd rather have the book in my hand. It's increasingly cheaper to buy this stuff electronically. Sam French finally has begun to publish
Yeah.
some stuff electronically.
And so does Dramatists.
Okay, 2 things. I would tell you that this is the hardest thing to learn, I think. They learn by doing. We're all convinced that we can talk to them until they figure it out. You can't talk to them until they figure it out. You can't talk to them enough. I just spent 2 weeks telling novices, you will never be ready enough. You will never be ready enough. Put them in situations where they have to do things as fast as possible. Give them an affirmative and a dis-ed and some case neg and make them stand up and debate. Hand them a piece of poetry and stand them up and make them read it. Make them do stuff faster. Obviously, you got to talk to them about rules. Obviously, we have to explain some concepts. But that thing Josh did this morning about flipping debate, I've been playing with some of that. Folks, we talk to them too much. I'm talking to you too much. Again, Max said this morning that he heard a professor this summer who's done some research who said, used to we thought maybe people could retain 20% of what we said. The new statistic that he gave us this morning is they're saying 7. Not kids, public. Make them do something. They learn by doing, they can learn by watching too. I think we learn by watching a lot of the time. You want to see what a good interpreter looks like? Watch a good interpreter. Evaluate why that's good. So watch stuff. This, I just think everybody needs to be told this. It's okay to learn as you go. It's okay to say to a kid, I don't know. I'll help you figure it out. I don't know. I will tell you absolutely that even after doing this, I've been involved in these activities now for almost 30 years, and there are things about debate I just don't know. I just don't know. I don't know all of the intricacies of how to run and answer a critical argument. I don't know them. I certainly don't know the intricacies of the new metaphorical world of debate that's beginning. I don't understand that at all. I don't think I have to. I think that I have to put kids in situations where they can get to resources and be ready to learn to do it. Does that make sense? That doesn't mean it's okay to stay dumb. It's okay to learn as you go, right? I wish somebody had told me this hey folks, you're going to make mistakes. New, middle of your career, end of your career, you're going to make mistakes. I don't think it's avoiding mistakes that's the important thing as an educator. I think it's learning from the mistakes and figuring out how to do damage control when they happen. Sometimes those mistakes are as simple as, boy, I blew the way I explained this, and that's simple. You're going to go back and redo that. Sometimes they're bigger. Maybe I'm just a terrible teacher. I'm willing to say to you that I have had whole semesters with a class of kids that I just thought, because everything I teach is a semester, and I get to the middle of that and go, well, you know, in 9 more weeks I get to start over.
That's how I felt my first 2 years.
Right? And I'm not sure that that's not an important part of the learning curve. I lost Vanna. I think she would have said something there. And then I asked some other people, like, what do you wish somebody had told you? And Vicki Fellers was the one who, Jason Mitchell, who's a good friend of mine, said, well, you know, the best advice I ever got was the old advice that people give, which is don't smile till Christmas. And I like Jason a lot, but I don't know that I think that's great. I think what he really means is establish norms, establish rules, establish parameters, and hold to them, because the kids need that. And I think he's right about that. Vicki gave me the best advice. And it's this: don't try to do it alone. When I moved to Kansas from Oklahoma, I didn't know a soul. That's not true. I knew the one guy in the building who wasn't traveling with me. I had to learn. I didn't know who to ask to. I didn't know who. And I heard stories about Pam McComas that if I told them to you, you'd just be like, wow, why would you have ever spoken to her? Before I actually met her, I had heard her. I wish she was in the room, because I planned for her to be here when I talked about this. I heard her called everything from Sasquatch to Pamzilla to what?
Queen of Darkness.
The Queen of Darkness, the Wicked Witch of the East. And then when I met her,
Well, she's from the Evil Empire, so yeah.
the evil. When I met her, it was like, well, okay, she's a little blunt, but she was willing. In my second year, because it was my second year before it, in my second year, she was willing to give me anything I needed. Cindy Burgett has given new coaches for years her entire teaching file. I'm going to give you every note I've got that I still use for novice debate, and tests and PowerPoints. Folks, we're scary because you don't know us. We're just people too. You need a mentor. You should not do this alone. She's coming back in now.
Oh.
You missed it.
What?
We were just talking about you.
Darn.
I was telling them that
The
Vicki
importance of
gave,
having a mentor.
Vicki gave me the best advice of anybody, and that was to tell them not to try to do it alone. But I just think that when you come into the activity, unless you are already established and you know some people, we seem very scary, you know. And my first encounter with Pam was not incredibly friendly, actually. But it only took about 2 minutes
It's all
for that to be
facade.
fine, right? There are amazing people in this activity who will help you if you just walk up and say, I'm the new coach at, and I need some help.
But choose carefully. You can ask-
Choose
Yeah, there are,
wisely.
and I made a list for you.
Grasshopper.
I made a list of people for you who I trust, who I asked if I could use them. And I didn't ask you, and I should have.
Well, we didn't travel much together.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but some of the people that I would tell you not to ask have retired. So,
And have taken up quilting.
yes, that's right.
We shouldn't talk about Gail when she's not here.
I just think that the most important thing you can do is get somebody who'll say, yeah, I'll help you. And I mean, Pam will tell you, Melanie and I sat at this conference about 5 years ago, and it didn't have anything to do with the school. I just needed a person for a minute. You know, Pam and I have shared cuttings with each other. You know, there are people who are really secretive about all their stuff, and like her attitude and my attitude have been for years. What?
You're gonna beat me with your kid, not
Top
with
the
the cut.
piece.
Yeah.
You know?
Or you're gonna beat me, you want a copy of my oration? Here it is, you wanna do something on that topic,
And-
fine.
And we're both arrogant enough about the way that we cut material that I've gotten her cutting of Amadeus and she's gotten mine, and we both have read it and went, mine's better.
They
But
got it from
I
me
was,
first.
I
Part of the
was,
story that
I
they're
was-
missing is it was my cut first, and somehow it happened here. Just saying, never mind.
That's possible truth.
well, and
The
a lot,
point is, we'll give you, there are those of us who will give you anything you need. Or find somebody who will, right? All right, some resources that will help you for both activities. People, your CASHA representatives. I know that Reg does this really fast in his PowerPoints. You need to know, I don't know that you need to know what your level of CASHA representative is, but you need to know one of them you can talk to.
Just somebody from your area. I mean, really.
Yeah, I think area is actually better, and actually it's getting easier if you're on the west side of the state to have access to somebody that.
Because honestly,
who's
even though
looking at
my
this
5A
list.
rep is Jason Hibbs, I live a whole lot closer to Steve Harrell.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I may because I'm more of a contemporary of Vicky's, and so,
Right.
you know, I'm just gonna look at that list and it doesn't matter
I'm
classification, it's all the
I'm
same.
actually very likely to talk to Vicky, and I'm very likely to talk to Rena, because Rena and I are really good friends.
And Spearville's kind of close to you,
Right,
sort of out
Yeah.
there.
Sort of.
sort of.
Well, it's a lot closer than.
Oh, it's significantly
yeah.
closer than,
Kind of just
Rena,
in
and besides
general.
which, Rena will just, she'll make fun of me and make me laugh, and she talks me down. So those are the, other coaches, and we were just talking about this, get a mentor. And again, I've got a list of people for you. I think there are increasingly, there are a lot of good internet resources out there that are helpful. And I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna let Pam talk about this in a minute. And I know that depending on the size of school you're in, this can be a hard sell, but folks, there is value in the national organizations. There is value in the national organization. I'm not a CFL member. I can't speak to the value of that organization or the resources of that organization. Maybe somebody
they
here
have
can.
none.
I can tell you that as a National Speech and Debate Association, the art is formerly known as the NFL, they have in the last 5 or 6 years, one of the things they've done that they've done well, and I will tell you the good things about NFL, and I will tell you the bad things about NFL. I'm a member of it. I love it. It has made me a better coach. It has made my kids more competitive, because they get to see that there are kids just like them who are phenomenal, and they can be that phenomenal too. That's the magic of it. CFL, NFL, TOs, I think the magic of all of that is just seeing that there's somebody out there who's your age who can be that good. What NFL has done in terms of resources that is a really cool thing, it's kind of, I will tell you, I'll be honest with you, it's expensive. And that's a hard sell in some schools. It costs $150 to be a member school. The resource package is another $200, I think.
I don't
It's
think.
$199.
Yeah, when that,
But behind that password, when you buy that resource package, is videos of every final round for the last 20 years.
Webinars every week.
Webinars about how to coach things every week.
These are the things your kids can watch at home during the week, because they're having a cool little like
Exactly.
LB webinar, and you
Hi,
can tell the
kids.
kids, sign up for this, it's Wednesday night.
I tell you.
I mean, they were flipping classrooms before
Before we started, the kids were
classrooms.
flipping them for us. My kids, they were complaining to me 2 weeks ago because I hadn't paid the resource package thing yet, and they came and was like, we can't get to that stuff, we have to buy those now, what's going on?
Yeah.
Then my inter kids and my speech kids were already starting to watch. And it isn't even only that, it's Pam Wyckoff talking about how to select intern material.
Joe talking
Holy
on there.
crap. It's David Houston talking about how debate works.
How to write Congress legislation.
It's just and documents, and if you only, if the value of what's there is pretty impressive. And I don't mean this to be an advertisement for NESA. I would do that in a different setting. I'm just telling you, this resource package in the last 3 years has become very
Has
valuable.
exploded.
Yeah, really.
National Debate Coaches Association is another one. National Debate Coaches Association, I think, fundamentally changed debate 6 years ago.
The
7
open
years ago.
evidence.
When they started gathering all of the evidence from every summer camp in the nation and putting it in one place for free. I didn't buy a handbook this year, not one. And they have teaching resources, and that organization costs $10 if you want to be a member of it, and you can download the stuff whether you become a member or not.
It's 25.